first item on the agenda is the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, next is agenda review. I believe we have a couple of items. The guidance presentation under administrative reports. We're going to wait till next meeting. We have staff absences there. With respect to that. And then Dawn, you had something you wanted to.
Now, I would like to, if we have an executive session tonight, add to that, and if we don't have one, then I would request that we have one to discuss student personnel.
Confidential student matter.
And I don't want all the board members to get real nervous because it isn't that bad. It's just some confidential information needs to be shared.
All right. Any other agenda amendments? Seeing none. All right. Next is correspondence, visitors, and public comments. Is there anyone here that would like to make public comments? Come right up. You can just stand up and say your name for.
I'm Jennifer Bailey, and I have a daughter who's a senior, and my son is in 8th grade and will be in high school next year. It's kind of odd because I'm going to be commenting about stuff that hasn't been presented yet, but I just wanted to thank the MVU administration from the parent group that they took our feedback and listened, and they're making strides to improve the grading system. And we're all very appreciative of that. We had a meeting with Jen and she gave us a rundown of everything, and we're very happy with all the bullet points that she gave, and happy to report that everybody's happy about that. So just wanted to tell everyone that. And one thing that was mentioned was that 7th and 8th, and maybe 9th, I'm not sure, had an opportunity to develop these PLPs and make a site and whatever. And I just wanted to provide some feedback. Some of the parents did speak with their children, and I asked my son. He said he remembered creating it, but he's never done anything with it. So I think there's still room for growth in that area, as we were discussing on the last time we met with Jen. The last thing I had was my daughter has not done an exit survey from MVU. I know that was something they were saying seniors might get exit surveys.
Yep.
She is not. She said she got something that was Hvac related, and I
They
don't know.
did a VSAC survey and we sent a separate one, but I'll send it to Maggie.
Yeah, she never got a separate one, I think, is the one that she's missing. And I was wondering if that is something that gets sent to all seniors, or are you,
No, we sent
do a
it to all,
percentage or?
no, we sent it to all seniors. I sent a reminder email today for students who hadn't responded, and I didn't see Maggie's name on that list, so I will take it tonight.
Okay.
Second one.
Thanks. And the last thing from the group of parents that have been sort of building, and I think it's great because now we have a group of parents to bounce things off of, and we would like to continue to have the conversations with the school and be there for feedback, whether it's about grades or how do we want to go about celebrating this or whatever. We would love to be involved. The parents in this group are invested and want to be a part of the school community and help to make things great. So I just wanted to let everyone know that we would still like to be able to be involved in stuff. So I think that's all that I have.
All right,
Thank you.
All right, any other public comments for tonight?
Hi.
Come right up, just please say your name for
I'm
us.
gonna read from my email, ADHD, and it helps me writing it, Siobhan Cooper. So, I just wrote this email, finished it, and sent it out. I sent it to Julie, Devin, Village, and some other people. Seems how I just did, I doubt you have time to read it, but I wanted to inform everybody. So hello all, how are you? For those of you that don't know me, please allow me to formally introduce myself. My name is Siobhan Cooper, and I'm the chair of the Swanton Enhancement Project's Communication and Connectivity Committee. I'm a resident of Swanton Village, a parent, and
Communication.
Yep. I'm a resident of Swanton Village, a parent, and a serial volunteer and advocate. I'm a firm believer in open, honest, accountable, transparent, fact-based, and positive communication. I believe that communication is essential to positive growth and overall health of our community. I also believe that something as simple as just starting a conversation can be beneficial to all and can lead to great things. This communication will be in regards to the ongoing issues of traffic, the destruction of property, and the extreme safety concerns on Grand Avenue and Route 7. For those completely unaware of what is going on, please allow me to fill you in. Due to the manner in which the Swanton School has directed parents to pick up and drop off students, traffic at the Swanton Elementary School and the surrounding areas has become destructive, a public nuisance, and extremely unsafe for all. I'd like to add some more information and ask a few questions in regard to my research and helping to find a suitable solution. I've been speaking with residents living near the affected zone. Many have repeatedly complained about the issues caused by the traffic to no avail. They've made their complaints to the school itself, the village trustees, and the Swanton Police Department. This has been an ongoing issue for 2 years. On June 7, 2005, the town of Swanton adopted a parking ordinance under the authority granted 24 VSA, Chapter 59, 24 VSA subsection, et cetera, we'll all find it. I would like to refer to Section 5, stopping, standing, or parking vehicles. No person shall stop, stand, or park a vehicle except when necessary to avoid conflict with other traffic or in compliance with law or the directions of an enforcement officer or enforcement or traffic control device or in any of the following places: A, on a sidewalk, B, in front of a public or private driveway, C, within an intersection, D, within 6 feet of a fire hydrant, E, upon any bridge or other elevated structure of a highway, F, at any place where official signs prohibit stopping, standing, or parking. Sections B and D, which are the driveway and the fire hydrant, are violated daily. Residents have been prevented from entering and exiting their driveways. I'd also like to reference Section 8, enforcement and penalties. Vehicles parked in violation of this ordinance may be towed by order of any Vermont certified law enforcement officer to the nearest or other place of safety. In addition to towing, a penalty of $75 shall be assessed for each violation. The traffic is essentially caused there to be a third lane of traffic on Route 7, Grand Ave. This road has no room for such a line. When other vehicles pass this lineup of traffic, they are forced to move over out of the designated lane and into the oncoming lane. You can also see how far over semi-trucks must move to be safe. In addition to this, I'd like to state that I myself have been witness to the proceedings during pickup at the Swanton School. I've observed parents zooming into the line while many of them are on their cell phones. They are blocking driveways and impeding local traffic. Turning left out of the school is extremely dangerous. I am told by concerned parents that there is no crossing guard at this location. Furthermore, the violation of this ordinance is destroying the roadway and the ends of the residents' driveways. On the local Swanton, Vermont Community Facebook group page, a few residents have expressed their concern and frustrations about the eroding roadway and the interference with accessing their driveways. One negative response was made, something along the lines of, "Good thing the state owns the roadway from the center line up to there anyway." I would like to point out that regardless of whether the state owns a certain distance from the center line or not, the roadway being heavily trafficked has caused damage, and the taxpayers will inevitably pay for those damages in the long run. Parents are also concerned and frustrated with the traffic. Online, many have tried offering suggestions as to how to improve the situation. Some parents made comments about how next year things won't be as bad because they will have the early morning playground drop-off reinstated, allowing traffic to taper in. I met with Swanton School Assistant Principal Justina Jeanette. We had a great conversation that was very informative. I told her of the public concerns and some of the suggestions, and I inquired about the return of morning recess. I was informed that morning recess will not be returning next year. It was explained to me that it is in the best interest of the children that this decision is made. Due to low staffing, paras are just not available to chaperone. I do not, and we cannot expect staff to work for free, nor should the burden lie within them alone. Also, having 600 kids all run into the school at the same time is chaotic and disruptive to the students' well-being. This is accentuated during winter times with the removal of winter gear. I believe that it is important that the public know and understand this before next year begins. With proper, well-timed communication, I do believe the public would understand. Some of my questions and suggestions include crossing guards. How many do you currently have and where are they posted? Are they paid positions or volunteers? Can people still volunteer to help out? And if volunteers are allowed, is this something that can be implemented and organized with the help of parents to offset the dangers? The traffic and busing. Well, in here I put, am I correct, but I found out the answer. So, am I correct that the buses pick up students via the 4th Street entrance? If so, could traffic possibly improve by switching the buses to the Grand Ave side? The buses would be able to see the traffic in order to stagger their exits from their parking lot. But we also have to ask if switching the buses to Grand Ave would then create too much traffic on the 4th Street side, even though there are multiple streets. If switching sides isn't an option, what can be done about traffic on Grand Avenue? Can it be arranged to have some students who are picked up to be bused to the rec department's parking lot to help alleviate traffic congestion and promote safety? What other such suggestions can we come up with together? Policing. This is why I included everybody, because it's kind of an all-encompassing. The wife of H2O Innovation was almost hit by traffic from the school. The other day, a parent and their child were almost hit by traffic at the school while in the crosswalk. This incident relates to the crossing guard questions too. Can the police do similar to the Berry City Police and patrol pickups and drop-offs on a regular basis to ensure safety and to ticket violators of our parking ordinance? I've spoken to the village administrator and Chief Sullivan about these concerns as well. It was mentioned that they would get into contact with Superintendent Julie Reginbald regarding these issues. I have not checked up, I don't know if they have. They have not? I also have reached out to the local office of Department of Transportation. I am told that this does seem like a dangerous situation and a police enforcement issue. I have researched their website as well and I found information on traffic safety plans. I asked the village and Chief Sullivan if a traffic safety plan for next year is something that can be done. I'm asking the school district the same question right now. Is a traffic safety plan something that we can implement for the future? The public and I would really like to help us all come up with a better solution for next year, as well as help to improve communication between and within our school district and community as a whole. Having conversations like these will only help to further that goal. Understandably, everyone is frustrated over this. The school takes slack from the public due to the directions they were given to enforce, and parents and the public are concerned for the safety of our children. It is not one single person or entity's fault, and placing blame will do no good anyway. I would like to ask that you consider what I've said here today and start implementing changes for the future. Also, I'd like those communications to be conveyed to the public. Together, I know we can come up with a solution that is in the best interest of us all. Thank you for your time today, and I look forward to working together towards our goals. Sincerely, Siobhan Cooper.
Thank you, Siobhan.
So, I'm gonna leave you guys to think that you don't have to answer all my questions now, but like this is like talking to the community and watching it and whatnot, and I don't know what ideas you have, but I know with school ending soon, maybe this is a conversation you can have before your next meeting, and then get in touch. I'll be in touch too, of course. But maybe this is something that we can talk about now, because like, it's all over the board with people on what's really going on and what's happening, but the main issue is the safety, and I'm willing to volunteer if that's something to do for crossing guards, and et cetera. Thank you.
Thank you, Siobhan. Any other members of the public wishing to make a comment? Any online? Seeing none, all right. We are now on to consent agenda, approval of the minutes of May 17th. The motion, Terry is the first to approve those minutes.
I'll second it.
And Toby's the second. All right, any discussion on May 17th minutes? Seeing none. All right, All those in favor of approving the May 17th minutes without adjustments, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Abstentions?
Purette, Don's not here for this vote.
He's on the phone.
Okay, so the motion carries 7-0. All right, next we have the audit report. So, Pete?
Steve.
Steve's not here.
Oh, Steve.
Oh, Steve. We have an audit report, so, Laura,
Sorry,
audit report time?
sharing my agenda. So I just want to take a second to introduce Miranda, who's up on the left there from RHR Smith, our auditing firm for the last several years. And then also on the line on the upper right is Ron Smith, and he's the owner of RHR Smith. And they are going to do just a brief audit presentation for MVSD's fiscal year 21 audit, which was completed about a month ago now. And then we'll open it up for some questions.
Thank you, Laura. Do I have the ability to share my screen?
You can in just 1 minute, but Robert's gonna give you that capability.
Should have it now.
Should be all set.
Perfect. So as Laura said, my name's Miranda McDonald, and I audit manager for RHR Smith, and I've been auditing MVSD since 2019. So back when y'all were Franklin Northwest, through the consolidation. And the presentation I'm going to give today is just pages out of the audit. My understanding is the audit has been distributed to y'all. So if you want to follow along, you can. I'll give page numbers. I only have about 6 pages pulled for this presentation.
The management letter and the SAS letter are all in your drive.
So the first question we usually get asked is, what is the opinion? This opinion can be found on page 2 of the audit. It begins second paragraph down, in our opinion. And for y'all, in our opinion, the financial statements for June of 2021 presented fairly in all material respects.
Yeah, that's the best opinion you guys can get. Anybody can get, you all.
I've included the first page of the management's discussion and analysis on page 4. I highlight this because it's a good summary of the audit and the fiscal year. It just gives a brief synopsis of how the year went, including summaries of the financial statements, debt, fixed assets, and economic considerations. We do have to look at FY21 and remember COVID happened. For the first part of the year, kids weren't even in schools. So it did skew a lot of the numbers, and we'll get into that, and we'll look at that. The first financial statement we're going to look at is the balance sheet of the governmental funds, statement C, because the second question we usually get asked is, what is the fund balance? In this first column is our general fund. And if we scroll down to almost the bottom, our total fund balances. So for the year for FY21, MVSD ended with about a $4.8 million fund balance. As you can tell, of that 4.8, 2.3 million is already committed. And that was for the FY22 budget. Y'all voted and approved to reduce taxes by the 2.3. So that's already committed out of the fund balance, which leaves $2.5 million unassigned. This next column of other governmental funds, it includes special revenue funds, capital project funds, permanent funds. All of these schedules split out schedules can be found at the back of the audit, beginning on page 85. If you wanted to go and look what comprised this second column. And then this is just a total governmental combined of general fund and other governmental funds. Statement E is your statement of revenues, expenditures, and changes in fund balances. So you will see your actual revenues of 37 million, actual expenditures of 35 million. So for FY21, you did have an increase of about $1.7 million. So you started the year with $3 million and ended the year with that $4.8 million. The large increase in fund balance is not unheard of. Several school districts and towns had a significant increase to fund balance in FY21 because of COVID, because of how schools were operating. It's usually because expenditures were less. You weren't operating a normal school year.
And I'd expand on what Miranda said, you all. We do over 200 school systems. I'd say 195 of them, all ended the year with increases. And I'd say probably more than half of them significant increases, like you all see here, in your school district. So as Miranda says, just to ditto that, this was a very common thing, occurrence with schools, just because of COVID, just because of, literally the way that you guys were operating in your environment. We saw it everywhere.
These two schedules, Statement C and Statement E, are what we consider the fund financial statements and are the two statements that we really look at, excuse me, when we're doing presentations, because this is the information that they build budgets from and fund balances for future years. I also want to note there's a whole notes section to the financial statements that is an integral part of the audit. They go into further detail, cash, fixed assets, debt, including bonds, notes payable, capital leases. Those are all listed in the notes section. I believe it's note 7 for your audit. So you can actually see what the long-term obligations are for the school district. That's not included in Statement C for fund financial statements. We don't include long-term obligations. We also don't include fixed assets, but that information is found in the notes and it is an integral part of the audit. At the very end of the audit, we do give a report on the compliance for major federal funds that were tested, or what's commonly known as the single audit. In the normal year and in the past several years, that program is usually one. We usually only audit one program. For FY21, because of the significant increase in federal funding, we actually had to audit 3 federal programs. For MVSD, that was the CRF, the Coronavirus Relief Funds, the ESSER funds, and Child Nutrition, the Summer Food Service Program, because of paying for students' meals. Those 3 were significant. We also issue a report on internal control over financial reporting and on compliance. For MVSD for 21, we did not have any findings regarding these issues for the audit. So that's what's included in that 90-page audit. The other 2 items we presented was the management letter and what's called a SAS 114 letter. The management letter listed a few items that we felt could be improved on, or what the industry best practices were. And then the SAS 114 letter is communication with governments. And if we had any issues with, say, management, it would be listed in the letter. I will tell you that we didn't have any significant findings that needed to be addressed within the letter. So at this time, if Ron, if you have anything to add.
I think that's a pretty good summary, Miranda, and, you know, and certainly we're happy to answer all questions, and certainly, Laura, if anybody has any questions, you know, that we need to follow up on, or, you know, as they start reading through 100+ page document, Laura, we're more than happy to hop back on or correspond whatever way you feel is necessary.
Thank you.
All right, does anyone have any questions for Miranda or Ron?
That was really helpful, thank you. That was very helpful.
I'm glad to think everybody had a lot of money last year, because next year we'll be hearing the other song. But it's all right. No, it's good. It is good to know that when you have a big surplus, sometimes people ask questions, and we're not alone with all the money that came in.
I just really want to make a statement that given the amount of federal funds that the business office is managing, the fact that there were no findings and that internal controls are considered strong is very impressive. And I want to thank Laura and Becky and the business office for their work.
Any other questions, comments?
A question I have, and I don't know, you know, but do we have to go out to bid in the near future for our audit services? Are we on a 3-year rolling?
We're on a 3-year rolling contract, yes.
So we will at least get one more year from this firm.
I asked you to renew it 1 year because just in the interest of all the COVID funding, and then we had gone through a merger and they're just getting familiar with us, we're getting familiar with them, so I thought it was in the best interest of the school district, yeah.
Because I know, maybe I'm gonna say the old days, but it used to be after a while, people recommend you change. In my mind, this is not the time to change, whether it's 3 or 4 or 5 years, we need to stay with this. I mean, coming off a merger and then COVID, it would be good to make sure that we're staying with
I don't disagree.
So, okay, good, thank you.
All right. Miranda and Ron, I appreciate you coming in to give us the overview tonight and providing all those documents for us to review. Thank you.
Yeah, Laura, let us know if there's any follow-up questions. We're more than happy to hop in anytime.
I will do. Thank you, and thank you, Miranda.
Thank you. Y'all have a good evening.
That moves us along to the MVU administrative reports, and we'll start with superintendent update on the safety plan.
So we wanted to make sure that the school board and the community knew, given how awful and heartbreaking, and words just don't even start to say how we feel about the shooting in Texas. And yet immediately people start to say, well, what's the situation in our schools? So I wanted to reassure the board and the community that all of our schools are trained in ALICE safety procedures, and that they have a number of safety procedures and equipment items and processes in their buildings. I put a little bulleted list in your folders. They're not to be shared because some of them you don't want people to know about, but I wanted the board to know that we have that in place, and for the community to know that not only do we have trained staff, but we have drills that happen on a regular basis, and that we keep our staff as alert as possible on these items. What we would like to do in the fall is have it more, it can't be more full, but that we would have a full report to the board. We would have some of it in open session, and then we would go into executive session, which is appropriate to discuss safety protocols, so that the principals could report to you on the status of what's happening in schools with their safety drills and let you know if there are any things that they want to add or change as well. That would be a good opportunity to let you know that. Schools, we've put in some investments over the past number of years in school plans to address some of these issues.
Julie, are the SR, well, I guess we have one SRO. but-
1 point something,
One, I was gonna
yes,
say. Are they involved in the discussions? about this?
absolutely. We have school safety teams in all of our schools, we liaison with police, we liaison with border patrol in some places as well.
Thank you.
It was just gonna be the same thing, I wanted to know if for that in the fall, if the SROs would be present for that, and if need be, any of the local, whether it's Swantoners, whoever would want to help out. Police departments would hear from them too, not just the SROs, so we just get kind of a full idea, make sure.
So we'll see, that sounds like a plan, maybe Dean would be able to come and help support that. Great.
So we'll, yeah.
We did have that, there was a report of an active shooter here at the high school not that many years ago. Some of you probably aren't familiar with it, and I just wonder if you've heard of that and how the test went. You were probably here, weren't you, Jen, when that happened? Or Jay, you must have been.
Years ago.
Yeah, quite a few, I'm just wondering, but it's been since we knew about safety. So I just wonder how that, what we, you know.
We've had 2 lockdowns historically. One because of a powdery substance that was found contained in an envelope here. And then that was in 2006 at the end of the school year. And then at the very beginning of the following school year, in the fall of 2006, there was a report of a person on campus with a rifle after pretty extensive investigation, and it turned out to be a hunter, because it was that time of the year in this part of Vermont. But the drill, it worked well, and the system worked.
And you're even more secure now than you were.
Absolutely.
All right, thanks Julie, and everyone, we're looking forward to some more details on that later in the fall. Jen, we'll turn it over to you now for update on transcript and grading.
I have a handout that I'll pass around this direction. Last Wednesday evening, I met with the parent group, as Jen mentioned earlier. Probably about a half dozen parents were able to join us last Wednesday night, so I could preview these updates with them and gather some feedback. Primarily, I would say the updates break into 2 pieces. The first part is really about kind of reporting on transcripts related to the GPA. And then the second part is really about clarity of communication and information that we provide families and students. So I broke the chart into concerns that were brought to us and what we plan to do to address the concerns headed into the fall. So the first concern was around the fact that we were reporting our grades as full numbers, and there was feedback from students and families that they would prefer to have grades reported at the 10th decimal place. We considered that, and we realized that there would be some ripple effects that we would need to mitigate. So we are going to move to calculating overall grades and proficiency level grades to 10th decimal place, but we realized that when we did that, that the GPAs would actually be lower because we wouldn't be rounding grades up as we were before from the half point up. So we are going to adjust our GPA scale to a 4.33 scale. That's the scale that we used previously instead of a 4.0 scale. And in the research that I did of many other high school profiles across the state, a 4.33 scale is as common as a 4.0 scale. I would say about half of the schools I looked at used a 4.33 scale. So that's in line with many other schools in the state. So that is a change that we will work on over the summer in terms of the back end of what needs to happen in our school to calculate those GPAs for next year's seniors. We're also going to move back to using the term GPA rather than CPL because we heard feedback that the CPL was confusing and that schools were using the information as a GPA. We were not claiming it to be a GPA. So we're going to make that adjustment as well. Most of the other changes that we're going to make are in regards to consistent practices among the faculty and clear communication with families and students. Over the summer, I will work with the administrative team to create a handbook of sorts for grading practices and make sure that it is clearly shared with the faculty and that they are supported in implementing clear practices and consistent practices from teacher to teacher, specifically around the area of providing opportunities for students to demonstrate their learning at a level 4, because we heard that concern was coming up a great deal, particularly in the middle school. So we'll make sure that that 4 pathway is always present for students. We know that the school profile needs to be clearer for post-secondary institutions to be able to interpret our grading system. So we are going to include a chart on the profile that shows how the proficiency grades could be translated into a more traditional system. We know that the report card needs work. This is a little bit of a longer project. I don't know that we're going to have made significant improvements in the report card for first quarter next year, but we're committed to improving it so that it is clearer for families and for students. This one will just take a little bit longer for us to do it well. We know that students are confused about how they're scored, though we've pushed into classrooms some to share information with them. We know that they need more frequent communication about how it works, so we're going to create a plan for that to happen at regular intervals and throughout the grade levels, and that we know families and the community also need that information more clearly and accessible, so we'll talk about, we won't just talk about, but we'll make sure that the website includes accessible information for families on that. And we look forward to continuing to collaborate with the parent group and getting feedback not only on this, but other areas that we can improve, that we can continue to improve. Something that we also heard from families was concern that students are not necessarily in the proficiency-based system prepared for college deadlines and kind of the urgency that they need to feel to complete their work on time. So we're going to explore different options, particularly for our college prep and accelerated courses, AP courses, on how we can create those kind of high stakes testing examples, and with the expectation that there is work to complete outside of class time, because that's a college level expectation. We're having continuing discussions about how we can honor proficiency-based learning ideas and the idea of firm deadlines. That I think is a struggle that we are not alone in trying to figure out how to balance those things, and I know that it's something that teachers want to figure out as well. That's a very long overview of the changes that we're looking to make this summer and prepare for the fall.
Good job.
Any questions?
Good job.
It's very responsive. Yeah, I'm ecstatic about this. Really, I am, both as a parent and school board member. In the fall before school starts, or the month the school does start, will you be able to give us another breakdown of, where you're at and how things are going and what you've accomplished and what you still have left to accomplish?
Yeah.
And over the summertime, will you be meeting still with the parent group, or?
I think that that's to be seen. I know that when I spoke to them, they wanted to continue to have communication. I know that summer communication can sometimes be challenging, just depending on different schedules, but I'm committed to staying in touch with them. So.
Excellent, thank you very much.
Right.
Can I just add that when we have the sort of like the overview before school starts or at the beginning, can we add just a bit more in depth in terms of like the grading and coursework that students are exposed to in terms of like how that works? Because I've had some conversations where these are just my own thoughts, where I ask like, how does it work when you get tests? What feedback do you get? Do you see your grades? Do you see like what you do? I know there's an iCloud system that they use to store their grades. So if you could just see it so that we know. And this is a question that I'm not sure for all schools. What happens to the work they do? So like traditionally, throughout a year when I was young, we collected the work and then, you know, we had the option to have our work back that we did for the year. A lot of that's electronic now.
Yep.
So is it stored anywhere?
So most of the work that students complete electronically is done through their Google Drive. So teachers have, it's called a learning management system. We use Google Classroom, and teachers assign assignments through Google Drive. Drive makes copies for each individual student, and then the teachers can grade that particular assignment for that student, and it's also in the student's drive. So the student has access within their Google Drive to all the assignments that they submit that way, though we still have a lot of assignments that are submitted on paper that students receive back. Whether or not they hold on to them and organize them, I think depends on their inclinations and the expectations of the individual teachers as well.
Yeah, I just like to kind of see that along with that, so we just kind of know what it looks like from their eyes. Don?
This is not a question, this is a statement from my perspective in years education. I'm very pleased with what you did. I think it's wonderful. I think it was great that the parents acknowledged that you did it. These things don't happen quickly, they don't happen easily. So I would hope, as you set up your schedule for ongoing dialogue, you keep in mind that there's a summer vacation. I think the night we were here, I said maybe we'll get a report out by August. I think you're way ahead of what I had thought was reasonable. So, you know, if parents are listening or other board members disagree, that's fine. But from my perspective, you're off to a great start. Enjoy your summer, and maybe before we have our first day of school, if you want to meet, but that's just my perspective.
Terry?
Yeah, I think it's wonderful, and I imagine the parents are pretty pleased too, and the students. But one thing, question I have, and I really like the way you did this, but, okay, parents, the report card, how you're gonna work to improve it, how that's gonna be a long-term thing. Does that happen in the grade schools too, or in the elementary schools, or,
So,
because I hear the same,
yeah.
so are you
One
gonna
of the
become the
reasons
guru
that I
of-
think that this is a little, the report cards are in particular are a bit of a longer project is that I think there's a need for, and I don't want to speak for the district, but more of a continuity of at least how they look and the layout of them. So I know that Rusty Gregory and I have been talking a little bit about that, but I think that part of it is moving forward at a similar pace with the elementary school, so there is some alignment, though it's not the same system, right? And K through 6, what those grades mean is not the same as at 7, 8, and it's not the same as 9 through 12. So there are some areas where we can align, but there are some areas that will always be different because developmental is just so different.
It's great.
Hope I didn't overspeak there, Julie.
No, I think
great,
we
thank you.
talked about some shifts in benchmarking, so that but that's a longer term, there's professional development, there's assessments that need to be looked at, and a little more alignment 5, 6, 7, 8, so that it's less confusing for families and students. But again, with differences, because that's inevitable.
That's great. Very quickly, a lot. It's a lot in a quick time.
Thank you, Jen. Any other last questions, comments? A lot of appreciation for this work, so thank you.
Absolutely.
All right, next we have MVU Ag Department update. Jay Hartman and Jay Sullivan. See back here. So-
I'll defer to Jim.
All right,
first.
Jim, you can kick us off.
Hello, everyone. James Sullivan, Chairman of the Ag Advisory Committee. Just a little background, because there's a lot of faces here that don't know. I come into it 6, 7 years ago. I was invited to a meeting, and subsequently ended up as the chairman. I have good people. Here we are 7 years later, even with a 2-year hiatus. The people that I have are still 110% with us. They may not make every meeting, but they are there for their opinion. And it was a hard go in the beginning. Like I just had a meeting and we just had the advisory committee and teachers, because I can get more information and more comments out of people when there isn't a superintendent or the administration. They're more willing to say what they want. They had a lot of trouble that they didn't think they were getting their input in, and it took a while, but we are pretty good. We are a pretty good group. With that said, we had a meeting. Myself, Richard Flint. My members are Richard Flint, Guy Schwarnray, who's a farmer here in Highgate, Laura Gagne, their family does sugar in, and Heather Bissett with the Garden Center here on 207. Elizabeth Sweet, which is now going to be one of our new ag teachers, so I'm losing her on my committee and I've got to replace her because of conflict of interest. But yeah. I also have Megan St. Pierre from the St. Pierre Farms. So I have a pretty good widespread group of different occupations and stuff that we do in our ag. So present for our meeting was myself, Richard Flint, Guy Schwarner, Elizabeth Sweet. I invited one of our new hires, Alexis Bangosh Reed, and Mr. Macy was the only teacher present. Others excuses or different venues they were at that particular time. So in the meeting, our biggest thing, put these on. Our biggest thing is the 120 minutes on the classes. The back-to-back classes, it's very hard. And that's part of the ag tech plan in this big, there's a whole thing on tech. And I've read it, and there's a lot I don't understand, and there's a lot that doesn't work, can deal with us in particular, but the 120 minutes with the back-to-back, and we can go into detail that, like sugaring, for instance. It's very hard to fire up an arch in the 84 minutes of a class that we do now, get a boil going, and before you got to turn it down and shut it down, because you also have to do your book learning in that time. So you've got things to do. So, and it specifically says in there for the 120 minutes for the back-to-back classes. The way we're doing it now is they do 84 in the morning and 84 in the afternoon. So it's the same class, they just do a morning and afternoon, and I find that kind of like either here or there. So that's one of our things, 120 minutes, because we're supposed to do a 600 minute a week to fill state requirements. And we do the 600 minutes, and we are doing the 100, but we're just not putting them together, so we're getting the full spectrum and the 100% that the students should be getting. I find it hard, you do something in the morning, go do your other class, and then you gotta go back and do, but, so, I mean, we're there in the content of the rules of the tech programs, but the intent is not there. So I think our students are failing. They're not getting a full comprehension. Yeah, single period classes just make it difficult for instructors to teach the skills. We want to make sure our students are prepared to do the jobs and not just have a little bit of knowledge about a bunch of different things. So we want 100% of something taught to our students, so when they go out in the world, you know, they know 100% of something and they can continue in that. Because a lot of people, they choose what they want to do, so either they do the mechanics or the natural resources or the animal science, you know, and either go on as vet techs or welders or mechanics or greenhouse. School has never really given a reason for breaking up the classes as far as we know. We don't know if it's as a scheduling in order for students to have filled credit requirements for graduation. So I don't know if it's something that, because of other stipulations in classes, you have to take them. So it makes it hard for a kid to stay in a half day over there and they're not getting their full English or whatever. So I don't know if that's something that can be worked on or explained to us a little better. Mr. Macy mentioned that he thinks the school board, now we're losing one of our teachers who is an accredited teacher so that we can get, I believe, a science credit and maybe a math credit with Mr. Wild, who we're losing this year. So we won't have an accredited teacher where they can get the credit for the ag classes. And Mr. Macy mentioned that the school board can approve classes for math and science credits, even if the teacher's not accredited, as long as the teacher presents a curriculum that the board can agree with giving the credits to it. So that's one of our things we wanted to figure out. The 7th and 8th grade was put into our ag, and I don't know if the 7th and 8th grade is preventing a schedule issue for us putting them extra classes with 7th and 8th, if it's preventing us from having back-to-back classes, if that's one of our issues. Again, I don't know, I came last meeting and talked about our state. We met with the state, Group 30. And the question, there was a thing that came up about that we couldn't have other students come into our ag. And did you get that clarified?
I did, and Mr. Hartman as well. We have had students join our program, but they've enrolled in MVU through school choice. So that we can do, and that's what we've done traditionally.
So they
But
have
we
to-
are not able to just have a kid from another school system tuition just in for ag. But we do encourage, and we have had students that come through school choice or tuition for the whole school.
See, and that's another issue with the Hunter. If some kid is doing half their school there and then come here, without that back-to-back, I think it's hard for them to come here. By the time they travel and then they gotta travel back, that 84 minutes you just can't get. So I think that's a big issue with our students. There was some discussion about different things for our expansion of our ag. And we'd like to know the progress at state of the approved expansion of an ag space. Our existing barn is waiting for an addition. There was talk for a breeding stall or maybe a milking parlor. And that was submitted 2, maybe 3 years ago for an expansion to that barn. And we have not heard anything about that expansion. Back 3-4 years ago, there also was a mention of a new sugar house. The Ag Advisory Board at that time did not see the pertinence to a cost of a new building, and we kind of did not agree with it. But there was a submittal of a building. There is a plan and a submittal of a building that went in. So we're kind of curious. We kind of changed it. I remember there was discussion of taking it from being a sugar house per se as to a multi-purpose building where they can do, you do the sugaring, food processing, the sales, have a sales area, you know, for like our beef and stuff. Like I say, there was a building submitted.
If I could interrupt you, I think that you remember we talked about the sugar house, many meetings, and we got into, well, you can't sugar during vacation. I don't know if the board ever took any action, but my understanding, the board said, we aren't gonna do the sugar house, we're not building any building. I don't know if I ever made minutes, maybe I'm wrong, Jay, but I sensed that the board at that time, the MU board, it was before we were talking about merger, with a lot of things going on, and, you know who was on the board at that time, but, I think the idea was, why build a sugar house when you don't have any kids here in February when they start sugaring and in March? And so the whole idea died right there.
See, and I agree with you, because the Ag Advisory Board
So we said,
didn't think it was a feasible idea, but then it got switched into this multiple.
at that time, we moved on to something else.
Yeah. So there is that thing of a multiple use building, just because the ag needs space. Space has always been an issue for us. There also was talk, they're supposed to be putting a sewer line into the barn, the existing barn we have now, so that they can have the sink, and if they did go into a milk parlor thing, we can have something where we can sufficiently clean up tools and stuff. So there was talk, we haven't heard anything about if that was gonna happen or not for the barn. Then we're hoping, you know, for an ag chair. I mean, I found out recently that our department leader was actually Jay, and I did not know that. I know Jason, am I saying it right? Jason Hartman? No. Jacob, thank you. Jacob Hartman was our department leader, but he left last year. And I did not know that Jay took that position. But
is he continuing in that job?
No, we're good.
Well, Mr. Palmer will be the de facto tech director.
Just that I guess there was talk that there's grants that were out there, and there was like the funds of $45,000 that we missed out on grants that weren't being filled out. And I think that's a big issue too, because we can buy, you know, get grants for new equipment or whatever, if we do a milking parlor or different things. So that was one of our things. Other discussions, I don't know if a lot of you know about the Cassidy Field up here on the Gore Road. That was donated for use for the ag program. We hay it to feed the animals. The hay goes for feeding the animals. We talked about getting the school board involved, and I had a little discussion and having some representative from the school board coming. In our discussion, Don Collins' name was mentioned. I did have a conversation with Don and Devin, and Don has agreed to be a school board liaison and come to our meeting.
That needs to be amended, because I put the word out, and I think I have someone who might be willing to join us part-time, Joanne.
Visit first. Can I visit first?
We can all visit. This is not, you weren't specifically elected to be on that committee, but I just thought it would be good. I also know you have family members who are very interested in the ag department.
And I say, and I can use a new member on my committee. We only meet 2 or 3 meetings. Like I say, 3-4 years ago, everything was pretty much up in arms, and we had 4 or 5 meetings. And we were pretty adamant, and I spent 3 years here at school board meetings to try and make sure. I mean, I didn't bring always want, but I would bring good things about students and what their achievements were, and we had different things come and just to keep everybody up to speed on what does happen in our ag. And I think the school board at that time actually made a visit and went through our department, and
We did do that.
We did.
This group.
That was before, that's before, that we did have a visit with students during our tenure, but there was one before that too.
And so, I mean, and I would continue to hope that you have visits and discussions with teachers. We do have 2 new teachers, as I mentioned, replacing an outgoing, 2 outgoing teachers. One of 40-something years, I believe. One of only 3. Talking with Don Collins, he kind of mentioned he would like an exit strategy or exit from the teachers that are leaving, so that you can get an idea of what maybe, we know reasons why some are leaving or why not, or if they're leaving for specific reasons because things are lacking in the thing, or what they think is lacking in the thing.
It was more of a question, and I'm glad Bonnie's here. I don't think I mentioned Bonnie's name, but I said with Mark Wild, he's been here, what, 30-plus years?
I'd say almost 40.
40 years. It would be great if someone sat down and did an exit interview with him. I mean, ag has changed drastically from when I was working, either as a superintendent or principal. But I thought it would be good, and maybe we do exit interviews with anybody retiring. I said that I wasn't thinking of asking him to come to a board meeting. I mean, I'm not saying that's inappropriate, but I do think it would be great for someone to spend some time with Mark and hear from his perspective what it's been, where it's going. I think he's pretty much a realist. So
Yeah,
I did volunteer you though, Bonnie. I did volunteer you.
We have an exit interview process, so
So
it's
good. That would be good, and then it would be good to, maybe if you could come, the next step would be to share with the board. It's a different program, that's for sure.
Yeah, so I think with our 2 teachers leaving, that would be a good idea, and I thank Don for that.
Jim, we are running out of time.
Yep,
so
I'm all set
couple more
now.
comments. All right.
Yep, that was my last,
When's the next meeting? So I can make sure I'm there.
June 15th, 7:30,
Yeah, where?
at the Ag Building.
at the Ag Building, right here. The other thing I mentioned, and with the sugaring, of course, sugaring's been a big deal. Talking with the group, all our teachers are kind of in agreement that the teachers, all ag teachers should do the sugaring instead of one, because it's such a broad, and I think that's a good idea if all our teachers are willing. I want to thank everybody, and for your time, and I hope that we can have some good discussions in the future.
Jen has some questions.
No miracles, but we'll discuss.
I wanted to kind of summarize, make sure I'm getting it right. Are you asking that we take a mull over the idea of doing this as split, combining this into just one 120-minute class?
Yeah, so as
I just want to see what
yes.
you're asking. You're asking us if we would.
it should be a 120-minute
Instead of 2
class
splits.
instead of 2 splits.
Okay. So you're asking that of us, and shoot, what was the other thing? Thank you, thank you, Terry. If that, they can submit a syllabus to us, that the children would get a credit for the math.
Just because Mark Wild wasn't an accredited teacher, and we're losing those credits.
Right.
So I didn't know if, until we get accredited teachers, if the school board could do something like that.
So I can speak a little bit to our plan for that. So right now, both Mark and Katie, who are leaving, are certified in science. So the teachers are able to award credit not only in ag sciences, but also the general science requirement. We have other situations where we have to address this. What we typically do is we assign a teacher who is licensed in that content area as a consulting teacher to advise, to overview curriculum, serve as a resource for the ag science teacher. So I actually don't think that we need to go through an official step to approve anything. I think we have a plan that's already established in other areas that we've used frequently for that situation.
Good.
So and we're planning to run those classes with those credits embedded next year already.
And is there any talk about combining it together, one?
So,
I firmly agree with that.
I need to take a look and see what the plan is for next year. I can't access it in my computer right now. I need to go physically look at the board to see. Typically, when we place things into the schedule, we are looking to minimize the number of conflicts for a particular student with the other classes that they have requested. And so if we are splitting up the 2 credits, right, at different times of the day, or 3 credits for level 2 in 2 of the areas. It's so that we can get those students the other courses that they have chosen, right? So we place items in the 8 periods in a way to try to maximize the number of requests that a student has fulfilled. Now we could, not for next year because the schedule's already been built, but we could say, no, we're not going to do that. Our priority is to have the back-to-back classes. We could make that decision and we can work with that decision, but it creates a new constraint which we would need to work around, and it might mean that those students would then not get another course that they're looking to have.
But could you, so when they're building their schedule and they start building it going from 8th grade into 9th grade, and it'll give them a math and a science credit.
So
They would
not
have-
not in 8th, 9th grade. 9th grade's an elective purely.
Okay.
So the science credit is really, for most students, it comes in the 11th grade year, right? So it's an advanced level when they get that extra
So
credit.
do they get like a pamphlet or something online saying, you know, this gives you this many credits, this is what you need to take?
All in
So they
program
could
studies,
plan
yeah.
ahead saying, if you're going to take this course, keep in mind, you know, these courses need to be taken as well, so you would have to plan accordingly. So it would be something that, you know, they could plan their next year's classes or their next couple of years' classes. If this is something they're really interested in and they want to build a future into it, then they could sit down with a guidance counselor and say, hey.
Right, and that's something that we can help work with students and improve their PLPs to help them make those decisions. I think what we're really, grappling with here is, are we saying as a school community that we need those back-to-back courses, right? That it would actually be 140 minutes, right? So we have about 70-minute classes right now. If that is something that we are committed to, we can make that decision, but we would need to make it not for next year, the following year, probably in, I don't know, November or December, Jay, would you say?
By Thanksgiving.
Yeah, by Thanksgiving is when we make the decisions for the schedule for the next year. So it's definitely doable. The reason that we haven't done it is because we're trying to honor as many requests as students have for the classes that they want.
I just think that if it's something that a child is seriously interested in, they don't plan on going to like a 2 or 4 year college to go out into the business world, and they want to do something that has to do with the agricultural. They should be able to do that with back-to-back classes is what's going to give them what they need instead of breaking it up.
It'd be interesting to know what the cost of that is, I think. So I
Right.
think that's the exercise. Go through Terry.
Can I just ask, you talked about you're working with the state, and I know we made our resolution, and it kind of goes with what we're talking about with the tech centers that we've been having that conversation. I just happened to be in Berlin today and saw this 7 days. Did you guys read this article in here about tech centers and what they're doing in the state and how it's prompted by the fact that Burlington is coming up with a whole new tech center? And so there's a board member who was, I forget his name, but he's very much wanting to have some say in the governance, a board member from another town, I think it's Huntington, and saying that we need more input. So I think they're really starting to change the way these tech centers are talking about, why are these kids in the car for so long to be able to go to certain things? And why should they be able to learn about stuff down in Burlington that they could never learn about here or in Essex? And the funding when we talk about equity, you gotta tell me that St. Albans, I just can't believe that it's the same setup as Burlington, that the kids are getting equal classes, equal opportunity. I'm looking at you, Julie, I know, don't look at me.
Well, they've all had to go through community, it's a longer conversation than we have scheduled.
Oh, I'm
Want to
sorry.
acknowledge, but
I'm
yes, I'm very aware of that process and what's going on in Chittenden County with that RAB, they're called, Regional Advisory Board, and we're having those conversations in our Franklin County one too.
Okay, sorry, I just wanted to, in case you wanted to see the article, I could say.
Alright, thanks Jim. I'm gonna turn it over to Mr. Hartman now.
I'm perfectly fine.
There he is.
And
I
for the
did
general MVU.
Must be I did good.
I've got
Thanks,
the
Jim.
floor for the general.
All right, that'll be
administrative
Miss,
report.
I do wanna say that Mr. Palmer is not here because his daughter is in her final high school playoff softball game.
We hope not.
No, hopefully not the last.
Hopefully not the last one, but the last one he knows of. And so that's the only reason he's not here.
Thank you, everyone.
Thanks,
Thanks, Jamie.
So I believe that you have the administrator's report in the shared drive. We started off with information about our Honor Society inductions, including the National Junior Honor Society induction, which was held on May 10th. The new members are listed. The National Honor Society induction, which was held on May 11th. They're back to back, so we can use the same flower arrangement. And then the National Arts Honor Society induction, which was held on May 18th. So it was so nice to have those ceremonies in person again in the theater. Students who were excited to be there, and refreshments, and they were dressed up. It was lovely. I was at the Junior Honor Society one. It was a lovely evening. So it was a wonderful opportunity to celebrate the achievements of our students. Also, our senior awards night was held on May 23rd. And usually this is held, used to be held during graduation, but it's been moved up ahead of time to reduce the length of the graduation ceremony. During the awards night ceremony, we shared that students were awarded scholarships totaling more than $700,000. So it's really exciting to know that our students have received those honors and recognitions. Last year, we applied to partner with Hvac for their Aspirations program. They selected another school last year, but they are taking MBU on next year. Aspirations Partnership is a kind of a more comprehensive approach. It's a multi-year approach to career and college readiness, where we're looking at kind of the whole school program. Right now, we partner with Hvac for their talent search program, which is a direct service model where they send a counselor who comes and works with individual students. This program is different in that they'll be working to support the whole school system to increase career and college readiness for all of our students. So we're excited and looking forward to that. It's going to include some professional development for our teachers about how to talk about careers and college readiness and integrate it into the regular curriculum, but also kind of support the administrative team in longer term planning for increasing career and college readiness for our students. So we're excited that they have selected us to be the school that they're going to start working with next year. We have music concerts next week. On Wednesday, this week, oops, it's tomorrow. Tomorrow there's going to be, choral concert is tomorrow night, and then the band concert's on Thursday nights. And the spring and summer projects that we have in the queue for MVU, we're having some spring work done on our track, and for our field events. The softball field, the pit, was dedicated to Mr. J. Hartman and Mr. Rich McVicker on May 21st. The sound system has been installed in the gymnasium and was used during the District Music Festival, the Middle School District Music Festival earlier this month. The trophy case has been installed. We need to arrange all the trophies so they look lovely, but the case has been installed. And there's a new dishwasher and temperature booster in the kitchen. And there's new brick veneer on the outside of the kitchen access. Some summer projects that are coming up, there are new epoxy floors in a couple of our classrooms, new cabinets in A31 and A38. There are new walls for the welding booths, and it sounds like the big roof project that the facilities group has been working on should be happening this summer as well. And one pod, C-pod. And then, in addition to the concert, we've got 8th grade celebration next week. On Wednesday at 6, our students' last day is on the 9th, high school graduation. On Friday night, the doors open at 5:30 for a ceremony at 7, and then we are having an open house to celebrate Jay Hartman and our other teachers who are retiring on the 13th here at school from 2 to 4. Monday, June 13th from 2 to 4 in the Commons, we're having an open house to recognize 44 years of Mr. J. Hartman at MVU. So if you're able to join us for some refreshments and, you know, mostly that shaking of his head, we hope that you will. That's the full report tonight, I think. Are there any questions?
Not a question, but I would like to say that as long as I've known Jay Hartman, I never saw him having a future as a public speaker. But he did a fantastic job at the day of the dedication of the sign. He really did. I don't want to say Jay was emotional, but the people around it was really you could tell it was from the heart. So just want to show them the minutes that he does have the potential for being a public speaker in his next career. That's what he wants to do.
I can see he's very excited about it.
I only do eulogies for the family when they pass. The first 44 years were great because I was able to fly under the radar. This last year has been just an absolute disaster. But again, I just want to say thank you to everybody. I certainly never expected all of this when I signed on back in 1977. And I'm sure that if Mr. Babby had known that, he wouldn't have hired me. But I am most appreciative, and quite frankly, I am most thankful for the thousands of lives that I have hopefully touched in a positive way during the last 45 years. And I look forward to the next couple of weeks and being able to do it one more time. And so thank you for whatever support this school has given me over the many years that I've been here, because I know that I haven't always made it easy for everybody. So thank you so much.
Is this your last board meeting, Jay?
We've got one more scheduled.
Oh, really? That you're gonna be at?
What's that?
This is not your last board meeting, is it?
No, if I can pull it off.
Just from that, I just got this thinking that you might not be making that to our June 1.
Well, that's an elementary school focused meeting, so I think he's going on that assumption. But hopefully people will be here on the 13th.
Spend my vacation.
Some of the board members back when we were doing the scheduling in March, I said, we'd really like to see a board meeting in June at MVU. Well, we got it the last day of May, but I was thinking closer to the end of the year, but we'll have to see.
Devin, as part of the community, I also want to thank Jay, and I had a great time working with him, the little bit that I did.
Thank you, Jimmy.
All right. Who wants to follow that? Thanks, Mr. Harper.
Not me.
I had a question.
I don't feel
All right, go ahead, Joanne.
Let Joanne break the ice.
Like we're ruined the.
Joanne, will you-
I was a student of Mr. Hunt's, yes. Probably the shyest student he's ever had. I was just curious for graduation, being that it's somewhat of a normal year, are we able to have a substance-free party for the
There is
senior?
one scheduled.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah, the parents have been doing a wonderful job of scheduling that, and I'm not sure what the exact number of seniors are who have chosen to participate.
Well, it sounds like Jen might have information.
Somebody's got to
I'm
come.
one of the parents, there's like 5 parents that have been planning it. We have 30 seniors, 5 guests, I think, coming. And it's gonna be at Niles Landing. And we're having K&M food truck, a magician, DJ, lots of games, prizes.
Nice.
Should be good.
Okay, good.
I don't know if it was loud enough to get recorded, but it should go in the minutes. I think it's appropriate. If you want to give somebody your name and put it in the
Sure,
minutes.
Jennifer Bailey, and if I need me to email you the information, I have it.
Alright. I'll check with Brett to see if she got that, otherwise we'll pass that along. That was Jen Bailey. Alright, next on the agenda we have our hot lunch carryover spending proposal. Laura, is this one you?
It is, I'm back again with more food service money. I did just talk with the facility task force about this, but if you remember, twice, I think this year alone, I've come to you with some proposals to invest in our food service management companies. We are only allowed, as I'm sure you recall, to carry up to 3 months of expenses in that account, or as an SFA or school food authority. And we've been far surpassing that in the last couple of years because we're operating under the summer food service program versus the National School Lunch Program, which has a much higher reimbursement rate. So we have invested in things like steam cookers, warmers, ovens, refrigerators, milk coolers. We've done a lot of great things for our kitchens. They were in dire need, but I'm back with another list. I don't know, Dawn, if you want to share the feeling of the facility task force on that list. It was the...
Are you putting it up on the screen there?
I can.
Yeah, I think it'd be good.
Oh, I'm not in the meeting.
While Laura's doing that, Jay, it was a chat message from Steve, just to you.
So each school was listed with,
It's, if I can just read it because I'm not in the meeting, is that okay? It's Franklin,
Go ahead.
Reach Trap, oh, sorry.
No, just, there was a comment from Steve to Jay, you guys.
okay, why don't you just read them? I think, I
Okay.
don't know if we voted, but I think we're all in agreement we want to do it.
I wasn't sure what the feedback was, so.
Yes,
Right.
so I don't think Peter might have missed that part of the meeting, but were you there for that? No, yeah, Don and I were, and Joyce was in it for Franklin. And
The facility directors, yep.
yeah, facility directors were there, and they all supported it, and I fully support the
They
use
have
of the funds that were presented to the committee. So with that said, I will make the motion to authorize Laura to use the fund money, or use the lunch surplus with the list she provided to the committee.
Do you have that right there? Can you read it?
I do. So Franklin, they, it'd be a proposal of about $19,100. It's for the grease trap replacement and a new commercial mixer. Highgate, it's a proposal of $8,871. Same thing, grease trap replacement, and they actually want a large salad bar unit. Swanton, it's $16,336. It's a convection oven, a hot food table with multiple compartments, the associated guard, and a pass-through refrigerator. And MVU, it's a proposal of $41,657. It's 2 convection ovens, a commercial meat slicer, 2 food tables with the guards, and 2 refrigerated sandwich prep tables. That's a total of $85,964 out of the required. We need to spend $211,000, so it still leaves $125,000 that we'll develop a plan for and bring it back again. This is just as far as we got so far.
So I second Toby's motion, and within 6 months, we'll hear about how we're going to spend the rest.
All right, we have a first from Toby, second from Dawn to accept these, this proposal as read. Any discussion on this? Seeing none. All right, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries 9-0. All right, next we have board resolution on tech education.
So I took Dawn's edits from last time and I shared them with the board and Dawn. And if you seem to be happy with them.
I am, now I gotta convince the rest of the board, the rest of the committee. Oh, that's your proposal? No, it's our board's proposal.
I don't think there was anybody on this board that had a challenge with the idea of addressing governance and funding for tech education.
The one thing I'll say, and I'm really pleased the board worked through, I think it's a good process. I think there's some others we'll come up with maybe in future years. When it goes to the committee that I'm on at the state level, one of the things sometimes that comes up, we don't know who else is reporting stuff. We'll know that, I'll know that next week, I think. There may be somebody's got something similar. They may say, do you want to merge? I usually don't like to merge people, but let's see where it goes. It's a good idea, and I think there'll be support for it. Why I say I don't like to merge, I tried that when I was chair of the committee with 2 schools, and it was an absolute disaster, but in the end, they said, if you're so smart, write it yourself.
All right.
I think everybody got a copy of it. Everyone out?
Yeah, it's in here.
No, so we've got the revised copies, we looked at the shorter version last time, added a few things.
Julie did a good job of massaging it.
Would anyone like to make a motion?
I'll make the motion to accept the resolution for the tech education, or approve it, I should say.
Okay, Peter is the first to approve the resolution, Rennick is the second. Any discussion?
I just have a question. So when we talk about governance, we're leaving it really wide open. So are we saying like we are advocating for a different way of governing the tech centers? Is that what the resolution is saying?
I think that's what it says. See, there are different options, and VSBA is aware of that.
So right now, like the tech center for our region is at the Maple Run District,
Yes.
correct? And we don't have a seat at that table as far as governance.
Only advisory.
We're tuition. So the only thing with the resolution, my own personal as one board member is, and it was brought to my attention today about, from a parent actually who saw it on the agenda, who has a student attending the tech center at BFA, and how they noticed there was some mixed scheduling. I don't really understand it, but the BFA or the Maple Run Tech Center didn't always match MVUs,
No.
et cetera, something like that. And I said, well, we don't have a seat at that table. If we were part of that governance structure, we might be able to influence that. So I would hope that this resolution is saying, and I don't know the history of how Maple Run got to be the regional tech center. But it seems as though the state just picked certain school districts and said, okay, you're gonna
Well,
run.
if you'd have been around in 65, 66, and you weren't,
Right.
it was
I wasn't thought of.
it was very political.
Right, so, well, my point is, the state has given these districts a monopoly on the tech center
Absolutely.
as far as governance, and I would hope that this resolution is somehow, I don't like really just tuitioning students to that tech center without having a seat at the table.
Julie's probably is more up to date than I am, but I think it's the Middlebury, Bristol, Virginia's district where they have a separate.
That's the Hannaford Career Center now. So there's multiple, part of the reason why this resolution is asking for the Agency of Ed to do a study, and they've conducted some of that already. So that changes could be recommended to the legislature. Because there are multiple forms of tech center education throughout the state, all with different governance models. And it is not necessarily the most effective. There are inequities, as you point out, and we'd like to see especially the funding change. But the tuition, the governance, I think, is a part of that. And what it looks like. What it looks like in Chittenden County is not what it should look like in Addison County or Franklin County or Washington County. So there's a lot of work that needs to be done there. It's a heavy lift, but they should at least start looking at it, especially since the governor and others in Vermont have really said, and frankly, the Highgate Reaching New Heights community, all people want to talk about is tech center education and the fact that our kids need more of it because there are jobs out there that aren't being filled, and we need, it's sort of a crisis, we need to do something about it.
See, the people that have the tech centers now and have the money that flows, they don't want to change it.
Right, oh yeah.
But anyway, I think this is good, and I know for a fact that the Mount Mansfield district, they are very interested in something very similar to this. So we'll see, we'll see.
All right, you ready to vote? All right, all those in favor of approving the resolution, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries 9-0. All right, next we have two policies, just a first reading on each. Julie, I'll turn it over to you for the background on these.
Yes, so I had been working with our school attorney about a 504 policy, and that work, I believe that our school attorneys worked with the Vermont School Board Association on this. Also, the Office of Civil Rights, I think, had input into the creation of the 504 and 88 grievance policy. That's the longer policy, and it really speaks to how to grieve something under 504, we already have a grievance procedure and form that has been on our website for many years, but this policy became mandated. And also, and I did this in opposite order, so I apologize for that, the other suddenly mandated policy is a special education policy that says we will follow special ed rules and federal law. But they decided that they needed a policy that says we're gonna follow the law. And it's that's exactly what it says. So it's very straightforward, both of them are. I've shown the 504 policy to all of our principals. We have people in each building that often are coordinators of 504, but in terms of a grievance, we've agreed that principals need to be the ones involved with accepting grievances unless the grievance is about the principal. But that's who we have there on that procedure. And we will put that up on the website for warning so that it could be adopted, both of them could be adopted and they'll be in place for next year.
Questions, discussions?
So we don't have those now?
No, they're newly mandated. I believe March is when one of them came out in March and one in January. And a whole bunch of them have just been, some other policies have just been pulled, but not in the required ones, not in that we have.
So, had a little window of opportunity to fit a couple policies in this time. I know the board goals committee is gonna has some plans for some others, so we'll get those in later on and take care of these now, so. All right, review those and we'll plan to vote on those next meeting. We're on to old business. We'll start with check warrants. I see Jen preparing as a backup. Steve,
No, I'm here. Can you hear me?
we can.
Oh, good. I had them open and I went to something else on the school board stuff, so I dropped them and I hit them back. So, check ones.
Oh,
No.
all right. We lost Steve. All right. Jen, I'll kick it over to you.
Accounts payable, 997.
Hold on, Steve. We lost you. You were cutting out. I was gonna ask Jen to do it since she's here. If that's all right.
That's fine. Yeah, sure.
Okay, thanks. Sorry about that.
Accounts payable, $997,357.48. Payroll checks, $45,911.99. Payroll, other disbursements, direct deposits, federal and state taxes, $1,666,480.48. Payroll deductions, which is health, dental, retirement, dues, etc., is $591,549.33, for a total of $3,301,299.28.
All right. Thanks, Jen.
Yeah, thanks, Jen. Sorry.
Is there a motion to accept these check warrants? To approve these check warrants? Terry is the first. Is there a second? Renick is the second. Any discussion? Seeing none, those in favor of approving check warrants as read, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries 9-0. All right, and next we have financial report. Back to Laura.
And I just wanna say that Jen and Terry and Steve have been remarkably responsive to our warrants and vouchers every week, even with some holidays thrown in there, so thank you for that, it makes our life a lot easier, so thank you. So you saw a financial report, I think about a month ago now, not a lot has changed. Overall, the projected surplus has decreased about $120,000. There were a few revenue changes, but most of them were all for the good. Both the gen ed and special ed tuition lines were up. That's tuition from other LEAs. That's based on actuals that we've received, that increased. The ag program vocational tuition grant, we were off a little bit for some reason with what we were anticipating, but sometimes the state doesn't communicate that well with us. And so that's now been updated to the actual. Federal grant revenues have increased. They haven't actually increased. The amount that we've applied for and are utilizing has increased, and the rest will be carried over. That's partially impacted by how we're utilizing ESSER funding in comparison to these funds, and so it's a little more fluid than it usually is at this time of the year. Revenues are up about $84,000 overall. As far as expenditures, we've done that annual shift where we do a reconciliation between special ed and gen ed with support staff, FTEs, and how they actually provided services. And so you'll notice a shift between gen ed and special ed salary lines, which is the 100 line, basically a wash, about $10,000 each way. But really it's the same expenses, it's just how they're spending their time. Unfortunately, purchase services and tuition have just, maybe it's not unfortunate, it means students are getting their needs met, but typically at this point in the year we don't have a lot of new contracts or changes in contracts, but we do, and that may continue for the next few years, and I'm just going to take some getting used to for me, because typically we have those all solidified, and then this doesn't seem to be the case. Every time I feel like it's over, another one rolls in, which is, I guess, good because kids are getting their services, but those lines keep increasing. And this time it was over $100,000 total between all of those lines in all the schools. Other than that, some benefit lines shifted a little bit. We're just still continuing to reconcile prior to June 30 with over 500 employees. It just happens. Cash in lieu of health insurance payments have been paid out to staff that chose to take advantage of that and not need our health insurance. And then the track project being completed, there was actually one PO that I had thought was in here that wasn't. They were over what was approved slightly, to be honest, but we thought it was pertinent that that project move forward. So I will report on that at another meeting when that project, but it needed to be done. Concrete costs went up, some things were delayed, but we think we needed it to happen and wanted it to be done before the end of the year. So we moved forward with that. But overall, I think we're still in good shape. We don't, thinking about the audit presentation, we don't have that giant carryover that we've had the last couple of years, or what I consider a giant carryover. We're much more in a kind of a normal range, I feel. And I think that's a good thing. I think it means we're spending our general dollars first, our federal grants, and then the ESSER funding. So that's where we are right now.
Thanks, Laura. Any questions on the financial report? Thanks, Laura. We'll move on next to new hires.
So today I still think it's worth pointing out that one of the best parts of any day is when I get to meet these new teachers. Because they are, some of them having their very first teaching job, and I have a set group of questions that I ask them, and again, it's very interesting and thoughtful answers from them, and I just have a really nice opportunity to get to know them, and they get a little opportunity to get to know me, which is really positive. So we continue to fill our vacant positions. Today I have for you Adrian Morgan, who will be replacing a Swanton classroom teacher who's retiring. Ashley Morgan, I'm sorry, one was Moran and the other is Morgan. Maybe he's done better. Also a Swanton classroom teacher. I met Peyton Curtis today, who will be replacing our school nurse in the Babcock building, and she'll be coming to us next year. She's familiar with our school. She's been subbing there for quite a while. We also have for MVU, Katrina Nelson, who will be a new special educator for us here at MVU. And in early childhood, we have Megan Lambros, who will be a new special educator for our youngest learners. All wonderful new
What'd you say the last?
people.
I got the name, but I didn't.
Megan Lambros, an early childhood special educator.
Early childhood.
Yep.
All right. Is there a motion to approve the new hires?
I'll make it.
Toby's the first. Jen is the second. Any discussion?
Joanne was the second. Joanne, Jen.
Oh, I
You
know.
can't see that.
Good to see you, Joanne, sorry. Jen's right here.
I'll write me.
All right. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries 9-0. All right, next we have a teacher resignation with possible finding for executive session to discuss an employee contract matter.
Yes, we have a teacher who is choosing to leave the profession and came to that decision late. If you want to discuss it further, we would need to do that in executive session just for her privacy.
Is there a desire to discuss this one further executive session?
They're leaving the profession,
So-
period.
Well, that's what we'll discuss in executive session. So, all right, we'll make a finding on that one. And we'll move on to a facility committee update, specifically the Highgate Project. Who would like that?
Highgate Project. Did we talk about that? Did we?
Talked about a lot,
We
didn't we?
talked about a lot, I don't remember that one, but go
Well,
ahead.
my world, it's fresh. I can read what EEI wrote if you
Yeah,
want.
that's fine, no, go
I
ahead.
think it's important because a lot is happening in Highgate, along with all of our other projects. But they had a lot of progress over spring break. There was site and concrete work done. They had targeted HVAC demolition that was not interrupting other parts of the school. They did a field survey and they did measurements and review, and I think most importantly, the contractors are gonna be utilizing, got familiar with the building, which will save a lot of time moving forward. They had steel erection, outdoor HVAC equipment installation, June 6th through the 8th, are happening June 6th through the 8th, excuse me. They will be protecting the floor. They have like a certain barrier they put down, which is great, and will help with keeping the school clean throughout the project. They'll be doing light demolition starting June 10th, heavy demolition, major demolition starting June 15th, and then all major equipment has been received, is in good condition, and is sitting in Williston waiting to come to us, which is sometimes a problem when you have 20-week lead times on giant pieces of equipment, so we're in good shape there. But a lot going on with that.
It's a big project. So far, so good.
Awesome. It's awesome.
It's a big one.
Good. He said awesome.
But a lot of other projects are moving along too, the roof here.
And 2 HVAC projects, one in Swan and one in Franklin, and an insulation project in Franklin also, as well as the space study. We're also investigating locker rooms and the gang bathrooms at MVU. And about a million other things.
So, yeah, that's a lot of projects. Are all of the ones that have begun, are we still on time and on budget on those?
Yes, I have to say that I've been absolutely blown away by the communication and the organization of EEI. They hired a new gentleman by the name of John Brown here, is on board, but it is daily that they communicate with me, constantly that they communicate with facility directors, weekly on this project. They have a set weekly meeting, status meeting with Yashua, who's communicating with staff, so it's about as good as I've seen to this point.
Great.
So a lot of these projects that you just brought up, I think we need to bring to the full board sooner than later, because we have some decisions that we're gonna need to be making. So I'm not saying make a decision at the next meeting, but I think we need to bring everybody up to speed on what we're looking at.
Yeah, we have a lot of decisions to make between now and August.
Yeah.
And they're not little decisions, they're big decisions, right, Laura?
Yeah.
Big. A lot of money's on the table, but I was really pleased with the report on Highgate. I mean, that's the one we're locked into, and I think that's going to be great. Laura mentioned a couple that I think we kind of said we'll be bringing information to the board for next year. The bathroom projects, I think that you've recommended, Jay. That probably, correct me if I'm wrong, but we're looking, these jobs, you have to decide now if you want them next summer, or I think we have longer than that, but in the fall.
By August to get the work
So
done
we
next
have
summer.
to decide
That's
the bathrooms,
timeframe.
and my favorite project, the locker rooms, there's some things that we can do that won't break the bank, but big one, and need to mention it, but the ESSER funds and the project at the Franklin School, we got a lot of good information. Now we just need a lot of good money. But, so, yeah, we're gonna be working, the facilities committee took a 3-month vacation, we're gonna pay for it.
I have a question, and probably I should go to the facilities committee, because I'm just curious about all the money, and I remember some conversations that I had about.
Listen in,
Yeah,
listen in.
that'd be great, thank you.
And I talked to Laura a while ago, but I didn't ask for it tonight, but we probably should kind of update the full board on the monies we've spent in the last year or so that people get a handle. It's not that the board's gonna change it. I mean, the facilities committee, we're only 3 people, we could change it, but I think it's good information. Because when people see like Highgate, a lot going on, and when they see the roof here, and then see things, people are gonna ask, how are we paying for that? So.
Well, I do just want to point out that the full board did approve all those
Yes.
projects.
Yeah, you have given
Right.
us, you've been good at updating us.
They
You've done that
approved
very
them, but it
well.
was, I agree with you, Julie, but to a certain extent, it was good faith approval for Chris and Peter and I and Al Toby, so maybe a little more information. would be good.
Absolutely.
Alright, so we'll look to fit a larger time slot in,
Hold on to your chair.
yeah. All right, next we have board goals committee updates, specifically the board retreat. Sure, I'd be happy to. Oh, yeah.
It's up to you.
That's fine. So we appreciate everybody sending in feedback, and thanks Joanne for coordinating the process of getting some feedback from everybody about what they'd like to see at the board retreat. The goals committee then met to go over all of that and try to distill it down into a few things that we could fit into our just few hours. And then after that, Julie and I met with Phil, right?
Yep, Terry was there.
And Terry was there too, that's right, sorry Terry.
You're doing great.
Phil Gore to discuss who's gonna be the speaker, or the facilitator, I should say, at our meeting, to kind of talk about what we had all talked about and see how that might fit in. He had some really good suggestions on ways we could go about organizing our process to make sure that our cycle throughout the year is supporting the goals that we've put in place, and to kind of do that with some more meaningful advanced planning, I think is probably the best way to put it, so that we can be focused and efficient, and I think we'll have some good discussion at the retreat around how exactly we implement all that, because the devil's definitely in the details on that, so.
I found him very impressive, and I'm really excited.
I'm very pleased we were able to,
Yeah,
not that other people couldn't do a job, but this guy is top notch. I've enjoyed working with him on what we heard.
He's got a book, and we've got a lot to tell you, but probably not right now. But this is my role now, since you gave us that beautiful update. I'm the nudge, because we have another thing that Julie sent out about what would you like to work on next year? Not about the retreat, but what would you like to work on next year? And also, how do you think we did this year meeting some of our goals? And that's one of those thought.
That's the thought exchange, and Terry alerted me to the fact that if you went in and you shared a couple thoughts, and then you wanted to go back in later after some more people shared, to rate them, to see how well you agree with their thoughts, you couldn't do it without getting through the survey part again, so I created an other. So if you do find yourself going into that survey and you're asking yourself, were we successful or partially successful or unsuccessful? Now there's an other too, so if you're in there a second time, you can pick other, and we'll ignore the other. I figured that needed a little explanation, but I think 5 folks have gone in, and
I think I'm 4 of them.
I don't know that you're 4 of them. John told me he went in, he sent me
I put mine in.
I was so excited to see what people put.
I did my 6.
Oh, good, so
Please
I'm
don't
not.
rate one of my reactions. It was something along the lines of, I don't know, I need more time to think.
Oh,
Don't rate that.
So you can go back in there
I
and then
can,
add something else.
because I didn't know.
Yes, but just pick other, I think.
That's perfect. It's like, don't rate that one.
You can tell that you're very thoughtful, because I'm like, I also, while I'm being thoughtful, I did bring some snacks if people want any snacks. Anybody, board members, public, they're in that little Costco thing. There's like, I cut up the cupcakes because they're so big, but there's a few things there, and I have not answered, people want to help themselves.
Can I ask one question about the board retreat?
Yes, that's so fun.
Phil, is he gonna be doing most of the talking?
It's
Is he like gonna, like the other gentleman,
it's our retreat, so I think if we all stop talking, he'll try to egg us along, but I think ultimately it's up to us. I don't believe there's a set agenda that
He took away some ideas from the feedback that you all gave to Devin and Terry, and he's gonna draft up a format and then share it, and then the board goals committee will look at it again. But, I mean, he even has, we could decide, and by we, I mean you, to continue with him so that it's not a one-stop shop in board development. It might be something you continue to here.
Yeah, sorry.
No,
I guess we'll say it's not set up as a session where we're gonna go listen to a speaker. It's a discussion and a, board brainstorming and formats.
And he just was very impressive, because I asked him what were some of the things, and he said, well, one thing I usually talk to people about is whether you're a representative or
Like a trustee or I forgot.
a trustee or a delegate or something like that. It was very good. I think he's brilliant. I think he talks about boards being effective and how boards can impact the performance of the school. And he's got a book that I ordered that I'm gonna read. I think he's not someone who's telling us, he's listening and then coming back. I thought he was really good.
Jen, what I have found with the very limited contact I've had with him since he's come to the mall, but I told you before our board hired him, the SB board hired him. I think he works with people. I don't think he comes to talk at people. I think discussion. I would be very surprised if he comes here and we never see him again. I think after you hear him, you're gonna wanna set up some type of rotational basis, whether it's through Zoom or something, because I think he would tell you he feels most effective in his jobs where he was before throughout the country, is he has ongoing dialogue. He's not a guy that's gonna come in and give you all his ideas and disappear. So, I'm eager to see how he works through this board. And my take is, if we like him, I think we need to try to do something more than once a year.
Yeah.
Can we have another board retreat if we decide we wanna, can we do more than one in a year and do further branch on that?
It's all up to us, and I think that's probably part of what he may propose to us, is some form of that. We'll obviously have to work out scheduling for everybody, but it's definitely just up to us, so.
You could even build it into the board meetings as a section.
Are we gonna have a review of that for the board meeting?
And we're meeting Monday. No, when are we meeting? Yeah, that's Monday.
But not for that purpose.
Not for that purpose,
That's,
but we will.
you're gonna schedule another meeting to plan the retreat.
Okay. I know I can't stop myself from talking.
All right, anything else on that? All right, future meetings. Our next regularly scheduled meeting is Tuesday, June 14th at 6:30 p.m. here at the MVU Library. Board Goals Committee will be meeting June 6th at 6 p.m. at Central Office. And there'll be a Zoom link to that. Will there be?
Yeah.
Yes.
Usually,
Committees
use
usually
Google
have
Meets
those.
for that,
Google
but
Meets,
yes.
okay.
Next time we'll pay attention, Steve.
And then, I don't know, does Facilities Committee have another meeting scheduled at this point? We can share, not yet, all right. To be determined.
We will,
Tomorrow.
They just finished one a few hours ago. Future agenda items, we'll be talking about our end of year recovery plan, having an update on that, and discussing continuous improvement plans. And then finally, we have executive session. So we made a finding on a confidential student matter and personnel contract discussion. So do I have a motion to?
Before you do that, an item that used to be on our future agenda, and I know it was pulled and should have been, but PLP back next fall,
No, we're that's gonna be a part of the guidance presentation that we had to delay because the
Okay,
guidance
so
director.
it's gonna come back, okay.
Absolutely.
I knew it was gonna come back, I just didn't know if it was next school year.
It's
or-
gonna be a part of it, absolutely.
Okay, all right, no problem.
Is it about this stuff? Can it, is it for the whole board or is it something that
Well, I
can be,
guess it's for the jury.
can we
It
do that?
just has to do with graduations. So last year we were invited to the senior graduation. I'm just trying to plan out the next couple of weeks.
Of course, you're invited to graduation. You let Mr. Hartman know or Mrs. LaRose.
Actually, if you let Debbie LaRose know,
If you're gonna
if
come.
you'll be attending on the 10th,
She'll send it out
and
next
and
week.
if you're coming solo, or if
Okay.
you'll have somebody with you.
I'm going with Dawn.
Dawn's your plus one.
Are you, inside this year, right?
We are indoors.
Unless we, that's good. I liked it out last year, it was good, but it's a gamble.
If you can promise me a nice night.
Oh, it was beautiful
I
last
had a
year.
beautiful night. Does anybody have a student graduating this year?
Yeah. Jen and Devin will be giving out diplomas.
All right, good, that's great. That's good.
No, I'm gonna thank you for saying that. We'll go to executive session.
We must get a year where we got 3 or 4 people having kids in it.
All right, so now we're looking for the motion to enter executive session.
I'll make that motion.
Joanne's
Joanne's the first.
I'll second that.
All right, Jen's the second. Any discussion? Those in favor, say aye.
Aye.